And we're live.
Good evening. I would like to call the Trotwood-Madison Board of Education regular meeting Thursday, December 17th, 2020, live stream via YouTube in accordance with COVID-19 recommendations at 5:30 p.m. to order. Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Good evening. I would like to call the Madison Board of Education.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mrs. Peter Freeman?
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
And I'm making sure.
Mr. Scarce is going to be a little bit late, Ms. Allen.
Okay,
So
thank you so much.
He will join the meeting here shortly.
Thank you.
You want to call my name?
Oh.
Because I'm here. Yes. Oh, the meeting has now been called to order. Thank you, Ms. Allen.
You're welcome.
Vice President Bozeman, will you please lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Madam. I now need a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Oh, second.
Okay, I have a motion and I have a second. Are there any changes, additions, addendums? You're on mute, Dr. Cosby. Sounds like you're talking. All right.
All right, thank you. I would like to make one addition. Under presentations, could we add Carol Dorn-Bell from Allerton Hill? She's just going to speak for a few minutes. She's not doing a full presentation because, as you remember, Ms. Jordan Isaac shared with us last year, but she does want to share with you some information.
Okay, sure. Under presentations, can you say again, please? Carol?
It's Carol Dorn, D-O-R-N, Bell, B-E-L-L.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what is her organization again, please?
Allerton Hill. Allerton, A-L-L-E-R-T-O-N, Hill, H-I-L-L.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Any others? Okay. Being none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mrs. Peter Freeman?
Yes.
And Ms. Moore?
Yes, the agenda has now been adopted. Community comments. Ms. Allen?
I do not have any.
Okay, thank you. Next, presentations, and we have a new presentation, and that is Carol Dorn-Bell with Allerton Hill.
That's right. Thank you. I am on here, temp user 1. That is me, in case you are wondering as you look at the list, or maybe you can, I guess you can see my name up here.
We can see you,
yeah. It's true. I guess I didn't need to point that out. But, thank you for having me. I'm with Allerton Hill. I'm a partner with the communications firm. And just a little bit about us for all of you board members. I know Ella gave you a full rundown last week, but I'm glad to be here in person to meet each of you. We are a full service communications firm that specializes in public school communications. Public schools are our passion, and that's why we specialize in it. We know the laws that you're up against and all the different rules. And so we work directly with, of course, the superintendent and also the communications director when there is one. We are not a replacement for someone like Ella. You can't replace somebody like Ella. You just can't. It was almost like love at first sight when we met Ella. But Ella has a very big job, and with the day-to-day communications, it's such a big job that between that and what the superintendent has to do, and all of you, by the way, I mean, one of the things I am very vocal about saying is communications is not up to the superintendent or to the board. It's up to everybody in the organization, and so we have to make it organic top to bottom, right? Everybody's singing from the same hymnal kind of thing. And, but at any rate, our role is to help you tell your story, whatever your individual story is. And every district's different. They're at a different point in maybe a levy cycle or whatnot, but every story is different. And that's what we love teasing out. A lot of us, like me, have a political background. Our firm was started, I'm a former speechwriter, but our firm was started by Steve Avakian. I don't know if you know that term, but he's a political warhorse from days gone by. He's still somewhat involved. I talked to Steve the other day, but Steve was John Glenn's right-hand man and I know at least one of his re-election campaigns back in the day before he jumped into schools, which this is where we've all found our passion. But our role here is with all of you is to make sure that really your higher level goals are accomplished. Ella does the day to day. And sometimes if there's a crisis issue or something like that, I've told Riva and Ella many, many times, you have a crisis, pick up the phone and call us. I don't care what time it is. I answer, Riva, I answer my phone at all hours. I do, but I love what I do. So whether it's a crisis or whatnot, but in terms of the higher level type of work that you have as a school system and as a board, I always want you talking about the financials. This is where, for example, I see opposition groups easily come in and capture the conversation from a school system, because if they're not talking about the financials, somebody can easily jump in and say whatever, and all of a sudden Jim on Facebook is a really smart person because, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you pointed that out, Jim. And how did you know if we didn't have you? So you've seen it before. You know what I'm talking about. So we always want you beating that drum on the financials of where we are financially as a school system. And you owe that to your public. It's open and transparent to really communicate with them about these things. And of course, any goals like you have. And individually, I know Dr. Cosby has talked about the strategic plan, really talking that we'll need to be talking about that, weaving that into our communications. We've already talked about state funding and ed choice.
Okay.
Yeah, so much to say there. And then, of course, academics, crisis issues. Everything's a crisis right now. It is right now just what we're living, what you all are living. But over time, communications, when done right, when done well, it really unites the organization and really helps you get through some of those tougher times. Social media, we will be taking over your social media. You never lose control. But all of these different mediums that we work with, whether it's social media and your website, we'll be providing input onto the website as well. Because that needs how do you say in realtor terms, a refresh, a bit of a refresh. So we'll be paying some attention to that because the website has a very different purpose than the social media, than the print communication. They're all different tools in the tool, but it's just like knives in a toolbox. You don't use a butter knife to slice meat, right? So it's that kind of idea that we're dealing with social media and with all the communications at large. So that's just the quick down and dirty. We have regular meetings every 2 weeks with Dr. Cosby and Ella. Doesn't mean we don't talk in between. We talk a lot in between. And Riva even commented the other day. She said, "Doesn't matter what time I call you, you pick up the phone." I do, but I want you to be calling me all the time. That's why we're here. So let's see. Is there anything I haven't covered, Dr. Cosby or Madam President, that you would like me to cover? Or do you have any questions?
Dr. Cosby, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I know we've been talking for a minute now, so I'm okay. But if my board has any questions.
Board, any questions? Well, we've heard a lot about you and your firm. We're excited about working with you. And we have known for a long time that our website needed a refresh. Okay. so we're excited about the refresh. And more importantly, our audience, our community, they are on social media. So the fact that you say that you're going to keep us current and keep us up to date and make sure that the information gets out the way that it should get out appropriately, that means a lot to us. We've been trying to tell our own story for a very long time, and it sounds as if with you and your company, we'll be able to do that it more effectively. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mhm. Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda, we have the consent agenda. And I'll go through these items relatively quickly. By the way, Miss Allen, I believe Mr. Scaris has joined us. Correct, Mr. Scaris?
I have him down.
Yes,
Thank you
hello.
so much.
Okay, there you are. Okay, fabulous. Consent agenda item A, approval of minutes of November 5th, 2020 work session, November 10th, 2020 emergency meeting, November 14th, 2020 board retreat, November 19th, 2020 regular meeting. Item B, approval of contract to Allerton Hill Communication for social media services. Item C is approval of request for waiver to Ohio Department of Education regarding career technical education for the 2019-2020 and for 2020-21 school years. Item D, approval of request to dispose of outdated materials. Item E is the approval of student activity purpose statements and budgets for FY21 high school yearbook, high school National Honor Society, high school art club, high school student government, high school class of 2021, high school vocal, high school singers, high school muse machine, high school MH functional class. What is MH?
Lisa, would you tell them, you said the wrong term.
I think
This is sorry.
okay.
Multi-handicap class.
Functional. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that, Miss Mallory. I need a motion to accept the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, and E.
So moved.
I will second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Are there any questions? For those of you who are just joining us, the consent agenda, these items, they have been discussed in detail in our work session. We have gone over these with a fine-tooth comb. We have picked and proud and had many questions answered. And so there is full understanding of what these items are by the board members. So again, if there are no questions, that makes a lot of sense because we've already done that. So being that, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Scaris.
Yes.
Mr. Andrews.
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes.
And Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes. Item 5 is the treasurer's report. Ms. Allen, please.
Yes, I have the financials to present to you this evening for action. And so the first schedule is the cash reconciliation, and the total bank balances is $4,904,333.99. Investment balances total $30,971,770.87 for a total of $35,876,104.86. There are some outstanding vendor checks, and there were adjustments, making total outstanding checks and adjustments of $11,423.07. If you subtract that, you will then come up with a adjusted bank balance that matches our Meta financial system of $35,864,681.79. The next report is our annual spending plan, and it indicates revenues and expenditures for the month of November, and also fiscal year to date from July through November. Our revenues are indicated at our finance meeting today that we did receive our general property taxes in the amount of $3.1 million, and included with that is the public utility property taxes. That's $367,805. Expenditures, the total expenditures for the month of November were $2.6 million. I did want to point, well, I'm going to keep going. As we go down, excess revenue and other financial expenditures. So for this month, because we received the property tax money as well as the reduction of expenditures, because some of our expenditures were paid for from the COVID monies, for the month of November, our revenue exceeds our expenditures by $2.6 million. I'm sorry, by $4.3 million, and then fiscal year to date is $2.3 million. So I did want to point that out per my finance committee members asking me to do that. The last schedule is the checks over $1,000. There was one question that was raised, and it was check 95659 and the amount of $2,002, and it was made to Dayton Montgomery County Scholarship Fund. I actually at the time didn't pull the invoice packet, but did the Montgomery County Scholarship. The amount is derived from the number of students from our October count, and so $2.80 times 715 students, and that's grades 9 through 12, equals $2,002, or you pay $1,150, whichever is greater. So since 2002 was greater, that's what we paid to Montgomery County Scholarship Fund. What that fund does is allows all students across the districts to apply for, I think that scholarships are an amount of $250.
Okay.
So that was the only question that came up during the finance committee meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Allen.
Welcome.
I need a motion on the floor for Treasurer's Item A, approval of November 2020 financials, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Are there any questions?
Second.
Oh, okay. I believe it was, okay, Ms. Bozeman and Mr. Andrews, correct? Okay. Are there any questions? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Scares,
You're on mute. Mr. Scaris, you're on mute. Okay, we may have lost Mr. We can hear you now.
no, he's back on mute.
Okay, now you're on mute. Your phone keeps going back and forth, and could everybody mute because we've got some feedback as well.
Has he put up his hand to say yes? I see
Yeah.
a little hand.
Okay, one moment. I can't hear because of the feedback. Okay. Mr. Scaris, can you unmute? Okay, he has his hand up, so I guess that's a yes.
Okay. Mrs. Gina Freeman,
Yes.
I'm sorry, and Miss Moore.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item up, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Cosby, please.
Okay, hello, everyone. I would like now to have you, of course, I'm going to ask for approval of our personnel agenda, but I'm going to have Dr. Davis go through it with you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Dr. Davis.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Agenda A, there were no changes, and for Agenda B, there was a retirement added and a lifeguard. That was it.
Okay. I need a motion for superintendent's item for the personnel agenda.
I'll move.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Okay. Being none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Scares,
So he's gone.
I don't see him. I think he was having a connectivity issue.
Okay, what's your pleasure? Just,
Let's continue the roll call, please.
okay. Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
Miss Moore,
Yes. Motion passes. Next item, discussion items and updates. We're going to start with the reentry plan, and I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Cosby.
Okay. I wanted to sort of share with you how we plan to come up with what we would like to do effective January 19th, when we've determined that we will be returning back to school. On January 9th, when we have our retreat, of course, we're going to give a proposal specifically, and we're going to ask for input, and I'm going to offer the opportunity for you all to give input at this point. But I can share with you the things that we as an executive team have been looking at. We are going to, of course, continue to monitor COVID numbers and see what's going on within our community. We are also going to, as we always have, look at the recommendations from the health department. We're going to ask for board input. We're going to talk to you about the impact of transitions on student achievement. And we'll be talking a little bit about that more tonight. But what is the impact, positive or not, for our students as they move from one type of learning environment to another, and also the impact that will have on our teaching staff. We also look at the ability to adequately staff our schools when we have students in the buildings as well. So there are a lot of things that we are going to take into account as we make our proposal, but one of the things that will be important would be input from the board, if you would like to do that now, or if you would prefer that can happen at our retreat on the 9th.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to just open it up to the board and see if they have any questions, and we can delve deeper on the 9th as well, because we're going to consistently track where we are as a community in COVID. Are there any questions?
I don't have any questions. I will be interested in seeing more of the specifics of how we get folks back to school. One of my concerns since the beginning of our having to shut down and things was I'm still kind of worried, particularly about the youngest of our students and how well they may or may not be doing with a virtual education. So that's my main concern.
Thank you.
Following Mr. Andrews, along those same lines, it would be more discussion at our retreat, but if we can kind of have some of the numbers on our students and their wellness, the home checks, and like tracking our students, how many left, and yeah, it's just numbers on the overall of our students. And I think that's what you meant when you said the transition. So I think you already plan to have that. So thanks.
No, and I appreciate you asking specifically for those like home checks and wellness and that type of information, because yes, that is what we want to make sure we really dig into and see how our students are being impacted. And we're working on those, getting that all together, and we will have it for the retreat.
Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Cosby? Yeah, Dr. Cosby, I'm excited to see what that plan looks like. I know that we're pretty much, our virtual academy is coming along really well. Unfortunately, we had to stop our blended hybrid learning because we went purple with our exposure of COVID. Again, I know that the district is well prepared. Mr. Howard has done a very good job with all the markers and all the the partitions and all the things that we have throughout the district. So I know that we are ready to move back in if that is indeed the case. So I'm very excited to see what that looks like and how we do that effectively.
Yes, I agree that we are definitely prepared. You know, we were prepared when we came back November, I believe it was 23rd when we came back. Our buildings were prepared, but at that point, if you'll remember, our numbers were spiking and parents made decisions to keep their students at home. So that will be something that we will be looking at as well, because if you'll remember, we were sort of planning for 60-70% of our students to be in the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out to almost be the opposite of that. And so that is something that we're actually looking into. And also the challenge that posed for our teachers trying to do both things. So one of the things that we are talking about, discussing, we haven't made a final decision on yet, but if we do decide to bring students back, the possibility of having some dedicated teachers who do virtual and some dedicated teachers who handle the students who are in the building versus having our teachers try to do both. So it is a lot for us to consider. We are putting a lot of time and energy into it. So I think we will make a good decision. And I do appreciate the input from the board.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I'm glad to hear that, because I know, again, it was trial and error when we first went into that blended model, and trying to manage online and manage a classroom. That came up many times on how complicated that was for our teachers, and also how our students felt, sitting on one end and, while the teacher is teaching the classroom and not having that same engagement. So I think as we go and as all of this evolves, we will continue to tweak it. And that's a good thing. And we've said that from the very beginning. We said, all of this is new for us. We're going to try different things as we go along. And we're looking for something that works best. Right. Yeah. And then if it doesn't work best, we can always pull it back. And yes. And that's the flexibility that we have here in the district. So thank you. Okay. Supplementals and the progress update, please.
Okay. And that's going to be Tracy Mallory will give us a presentation.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm going to take a moment here to share my screen.
Ms. Mallory, we appreciate you giving us this presentation, because if you recall our last conversation, we asked about the supplementals and where we were, because this is going to be an ongoing review for the board.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, to make sure that we are doing what it is we need to do, and also to evaluate these supplementals.
Mm-hmm. So thank you for this opportunity to share. And so the update begins as, the screen that you have in front of you is just a rundown of the extracurricular activities and clubs that were approved. All of these advisors submitted goal planning forms that all of the board members had an opportunity to review before supplementals were approved. And it's a total of about 18. And so the data that was collected was data that centered around the number of students that actively participated in meetings, practices, and events, time frame of those activities, the number of meetings held thus far, and then what are some measurable outcomes thus far for the activities. And so again, there were a total of 18 after-school clubs or student activities. Over 300, close to 400 students actively participated throughout those clubs. 4 of the clubs had not taken place yet. So, and those clubs are listed, and that's for various reasons. Scheduling had a lot to do with some of them, and a lot of our students were online a lot of the time. And so if these clubs were going to happen, a lot of them were going to happen online as well. And so a lot of the advisors are thinking that some of that just ongoing online activity throughout the day may be prohibited some of the participation that they would have liked to have in those clubs. And then there was one that the information just was not submitted in time for the deadline for those clubs, for all of the clubs. And so just sharing briefly some of the outcomes that were met. Students did have an opportunity to work on coding. The Lego robotics team worked on coding their robots and designing tools and attachments. And then our 7th graders, they also have an opportunity to work through coding through their elective that each of the 7th grade classes rotates through. It's a STEM class that incorporates STEM activities, including coding and other things. They had an opportunity to vote on their senior class officers. Girls on the Run, they completed lessons in their journals on building confidence and making intentional decisions. And so, of course, this PowerPoint will definitely be available for all of you to have access to, so you can really read through it. I just kind of wanted to highlight some of the bigger things that were happening. There were some opportunities to watch TED Talks. Some of our high school students participated in workshops with professors from Tiffin University and also participated in leadership training. And the student leaders were able to help plan activities. And then I think in the yearbook club, I know they were working on economics, supply and demand, and things like that. And again, these goals and outcomes were aligned to the goal planning forms that they submitted before their supplementals were approved. And then lastly, I just wanted to share with you all that we did have some things put into place for accountability. All of the clubs who were virtual were required to send the links that they used to meet with their students, the dates that they were meeting and the time. So at any time, the principal, building administration, superintendent, or anyone could join the clubs or just kind of pop in to see what was going on. And just to assure that our students are, getting the support and services that they're expected to receive. And so that is the end of the presentation, but I am open for any questions. I think you're on mute.
Sorry. I said thank you for your presentation, and I'm going to open it up for the board for questions or comments.
I have a comment. I like the idea that we had our high school students engaged in a leadership role with Tiffin, and my son actually attended Tiffin for a year or two. So those are the kinds of things that really highlight moving and pushing our students into where they need to be in this virtual world. And I just want to mention, and I think I sent something to Dr. Cosby, didn't get a chance to mention it to Mr. Nadir, I was a little busy, but they have a morning show and the students tag team and they do it like flawlessly, and they give the weather update, they give current events. It is really, it's the highlight of my day. But thank you for that report, Ms. Mallory.
And Ms. Jeter Freeman, I will add that I did talk to Mr. Nadir about it, and he's excited to either, show a video of what they do or actually have them come on board so we can give them kudos as well. So I told him I think we might want to do both, and I would let him know which board meeting we would have them present at. So thank you for sharing that.
They just have so much personality for each one of them. And it is a really good mix of young students doing a great job.
Great.
Okay, any other comments for Ms. Mallory? Okay, Ms. Mallory, we appreciate the report. Thank you very much. Good information, and we'll continue to track those clubs. And again, you said how many? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Andrews.
I'm sorry, I couldn't find my mic button. I couldn't get to it. But I just want to echo what's already been said. I thought it was a great report, and I really like the idea that our kids are getting involved with some of the newer social media and really interacting with that. I think that's a wonderful opportunity, and it speaks well to what we're trying to do for our students. And thank you very much.
And again, the coding, you mentioned there was a coding project. Thank you for that. I know Ms. Jeter Freeman has been talking about coding for quite a while, and there has been so much opportunity over COVID for kids to do coding. So I'm glad we engaged in one of those particular programs.
It was actually also good to see a sense of normalcy. They still had a homecoming king and queen spirit week, so it was good to see that was still maintained through all of this.
Any other questions or comments?
I would like to thank you, Ms. Mallory. That was a great presentation, and she's just so representative of my wonderful executive cabinet. I just want to give them kudos, and I appreciate their assistance in these meetings with me. Thank you.
Yeah. Ms. Mallory, you shared the links. Have you had an opportunity to jump in on some of those supplemental clubs?
I have not. The principals that was their responsibility to manage that and, just kind of monitor.
Okay. So were they available, or did they have the opportunity to actually jump into some of the clubs?
As far as I know, I did not hear that none of them were happening, or that, that things weren't going like they should. How about that?
So you're not sure. Okay. So you're just not sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I'm just reporting the data.
I know we have some principals on. I see Mr. Warner, Mr. McCray on. I don't know if they want to say would like to say something, Ms. Sterner, about maybe being a part or being able to take a peek at some of those supplemental clubs. Mr. Nadir. Okay. Well, maybe we will. I see Mr. Gibson on too. Yes.
Mr. Warner.
I just want to let you know the ELC does not have any supplemental clubs.
Okay.
Yeah, just want to let you know.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that's Mr. Nadir, maybe. Did you have something you'd like to add, Mr. Nadir?
You're on mute, Mr. Nadir.
I don't see him. It looks like I'm seeing his, there we go.
He's frozen on my side. Hi, Mr. Nadir. Did you have anything to add?
You're on mute.
Yes. I would like to add, I have attended our Legos Club meeting. Our Girls on the Runs Club has ended, but I will be letting Dr. Cosby know to also let the board. I was made aware by Mrs. Cates that Dayton Daily News has recognized the group as well.
Oh, wow.
So that information will be coming for our Girls on the Run. Thank you.
Okay, that's wonderful. And thank you. Thank you for engaging with this in the supplementals in your building. That says a lot. Okay. Well, Miss Mallory, thank you so much. And we'll look forward to the next presentation. And I know I would like to hear from the other building principals along the lines of their engagement in the supplementals as well for our next report. Thank you.
Make sure we talk to them about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Next up, the first semester student academic performance, Dr. Cosby.
Okay.
Sure.
Yes. So what has happened since we spoke last? As you'll remember, we talked about meeting and listening to Dr. Doug Reeves about the impact of, receiving a lot of Fs on students. And it seems like right after we had that conversation, it was on TV, on the national news. It was everywhere. This conversation about the impact that it could have on students to receive those failing grades. So I shared with you that I'd asked my staff to take those last 2 weeks of the semester and see if they could assess our students in a different way to determine if they had learned information. So I want to be clear for everyone that they were not asked to give grades. They were not asked to do anything like that, but just to have authentic assessment with their individual students. And as you know, we had quite a few Fs that were pending at the time. And so I was asked by some of the principals if we could extend that opportunity until January 8th so that they would have over break to actually, kids could get more work done and things could happen. So I did extend it, but I also did ask them, where are we now? Where are we as of today, 12/17? And I got responses back from all of my principals. So I'll share with you what they shared with me. The high school said that they did look at theirs quarter, first quarter and second quarter. In first quarter, 80 students improved their grades by turning in their work, and they ended up with at least 60%. So there will be students who will receive a D or better instead of 80 students instead of receiving an F for first quarter. For second quarter, they are still doing their authentic assessments. They're very optimistic. They've been talking with the students, but we'll know more when we meet on the 9th. So we'll have specifics on the 9th because, they will be through at that point. That was the high school. So the middle school said what they found as of today, that there's been increased parent engagement in this process. What they did was offer student help sessions to allow the students to, show those authentic ways that they learned and possibly turn in things and just to get some additional help. And because of that opportunity, parent engagement really increased. The parents encouraged their students to take advantage of that. They said the teachers are still adjusting their grades. They're predicting, looking at possibly the Fs improving 10 to 20%. So we would not be giving 10 to 20% of the number of Fs that were initially thought that the students would get. And that's based on participation in the help sessions, in the new way of assessing. Then Westbrook, they're waiting also to find out their final numbers. But at this point, the work that they've been doing, they're anticipating that there will be about 50% fewer Fs than what they had initially thought would be issued. They don't have their final numbers yet, but we will get those soon. And then finally, Madison Park said at this point they have 18 to 25 students who are at risk, which is 7 to 10% of their students of receiving an F. So that number is not as high as initially, thought prior to looking at. They're also looking at some of their students in terms of satisfactory versus unsatisfactory as well for some of the younger students. So I do think that this has been a positive way to give students an opportunity to show what they know. And that is what we had hoped to do. They will have it all finished up by January 8th so that on January 9th, hopefully I'll have more specifics. And if not, we'll have it for that January board meeting, once they get everything turned in. So that's where we are.
Okay. Any questions, board? Or comments? Dr. Cosby, how many Fs that we have total?
Well, initially, we had predicted that it might be as many as 1,000 Fs going out. And so that number right now seems like it will be significantly lower.
Yeah. I think it's important also to talk about not just Trotwood, but across the country, okay, with that being an issue with these hybrid learning programs and virtual academies and the pandemic overall. That was the topic of discussion on the workshop that I know that I jumped on along with Ms. Jeter Freeman. And you were saying that you're looking at having those students reevaluated for content learning, such as, okay, so would it be more of a pass fail? I know we talked about so many things on the conference on a real big scope as a statewide, initiative. But what does that look like for us in changing, not changing those grades, but making sure that the kids have obtained the information and the skill set and the knowledge to move on?
That is what we were assessing. What is their knowledge? What do they have? We still do intend to give grades. As you all know, we have to have grades when our kids are trying to go off to school and when they're getting scholarships and things. So we're not going to pass fail. But one of the things that we talked quite a bit about was Dr. Reeves suggested the whole analogy of when you give an F, you don't really give attention to the fact that someone starts in place A and then end up. They master it. So he suggests that you don't average those grades. And again, the whole sports analogy, you wouldn't tell a person who started out, trying to shoot the basketball and never made a basket. And then by the time they finish, they're hitting everything. You wouldn't say, well, I'm not going to put you on my team. So we've decided not to average, but instead to look at where the students are. And that's where that grade comes from. And it is a true reflection of what they know right now, not the fact that they didn't turn in 15 assignments or that they didn't do something at a given time. If they know that information, then they will get credit for that.
So more like progress learning.
Yes.
You want to see progress. You want to see that they have at least, embraced or understood the information that they've been taught.
Yes. Exactly.
Let me ask this if I can. I know our circumstances, afford us the opportunities to do something like that. But is that a possibility that, even when, we're back to some sense of normalcy, that's still still something that can be done?
Yes, Mr. Scarce, we are planning to revisit our grading process in general. We understand, that students shouldn't be actually having their grade determined by whether or not they came into the room, dressed inappropriately or based on behavioral issues, but more on the knowledge that they have. So our curriculum department with Ms. Minor is sort of leading the charge on this, but we are going to be working with the principals, working with their staff, our BLTs and all, to talk about how can we grade and really know what the students learn versus getting a grade based on things that really don't have anything to do with knowledge.
Okay. So more or less, I noticed Miss Mallory put in the chat like mastery, mastery learning.
Yes.
Any other comments?
One of the schools, the STEM school, the one on Whitman, their philosophy is kind of already that. The students don't get 10, 12 assignments per week. And then too, let's understand that those assignments are virtual. You have to log on. You have to know where you're going to take a test. There's a lot of other factors that goes into it. So what I think we need to do is maybe take a look at how they do that. They give tests, and if the students don't get it right, they have an opportunity to get it over. So it's not about giving so many tests, so much homework, but it's making sure they understand the content. And so we have to look at that. And I think that's something we have to charge maybe our principals with, and also all of us to look at, okay, what is it we really need them to know? What is an appropriate number of homework assignments when they don't have parents there with them during the day? And what are we asking parents to do with 10 assignments after school is over, after they maybe worked a full day? So it'd be like a teacher working all day and coming home and having to do 4 assignments a night. And understand too that that parent was not in that classroom with the students. And I'm speaking probably more for the elementary grades, because at the middle school, the high school, the students should be able to do that on their own. But we have to be considerate of that. And so those are my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Peter Freeman.
And I would like to say that you're right, that there are other districts that are doing things in different ways, or other models, that we can for sure look at. I know some of you may be familiar with DECA and how they have students, sort of get through gateways and things like that. So the traditional form of grading that we've always done, can be changed. And so that is something that we will be looking at, talking about, and addressing. And I think it is that time. You're right. We talk about what are some of the silver linings, and we were asked actually by a reporter. And when I talked to my staff, one of the things that we talked about was the opportunity to revisit and review our grading policies and come up with something that really deals with what our students know. So I'm excited about it. I think the team is excited about it as well.
Okay, Mr. Scaris, your hand's up.
Thank you. Are we going to have the opportunity, maybe not in our upcoming retreat, but maybe in the near future, to talk about that in depth, about what that looks like?
That would be wonderful. Yes, put that on an agenda for an upcoming retreat. Yes. Ms. Moore, is that okay with you?
Go right ahead, Dr. Cosby. Mr. Scaris, that's a great idea. And that's something that we should talk about more. And there is going to be some time on this upcoming agenda to maybe toss some ideas out and talk a little bit along the lines of, how that is done in other places like DECA, like the STEM school, and how we can change how we evaluate our kids to make sure that they are getting it and not just passing a test.
Right.
And it's not that I would not want to bring it up in conversation in our upcoming retreat, because that seems monumental.
Yeah.
I would really like to devote time specifically for that topic.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know how everybody else.
That works for me because we're still also thinking of a couple of things we wanted to add to our agenda. I just haven't had a chance as of yet to firm it up and with you.
Okay.
So I think that would be good to have its own meeting.
Yeah, that's why I would say that is going to be a major topic, and it probably does deserve its own exclusive meeting to really focus on all of the parameters and things that go into that preparation, and trying to get it structured and things, and try to figure out how to implement that.
Yeah, I don't think there's an argument in it either way. I mean, that is something that is easily done at our next retreat. We'll talk about it a little bit at our next retreat. And Dr. Cosby, I've asked you to put some items on the agenda, and then we will do a deeper dive, and the entire retreat can be about our grading system. Okay.
Thank you.
And how we evaluate kids. Thank you. Next up, we have item D, the condolence community outreach.
Well, we have, as you know, Ms. Isaac Jordan sort of working on this under Tracy Mallory, and she is unable to be with us today. So Ms. Mallory has said that she will speak on this for us.
Yes. So I have another exciting board agenda. I'm sorry. My mother is calling me and doesn't realize that I'm in board meeting. I'm sorry. And like any mother, she's going to keep calling until I answer. So I have to strategically turn my phone off. Yep, that's her calling again. I'm sorry. So again, I don't have a wonderful PowerPoint presentation, but I would like to make a few recommendations for the board. So I am recommending that upon notification of instances of a loss of staff, loss of parent, or loss of a student, that first off, of course, someone who personally knows the family will reach out to the family and make arrangements for, their items and things like that to be picked up. But we're, of course, want someone who already has that relationship with the family to offer condolences on behalf of the district, et cetera, as well. We also are making recommendations that in each instance, the superintendent of schools will send a card on behalf of the district to the family with a standard monetary gift or a monetary love offering. We also are asking that also recommending that there is also an expression of condolence sent to any memorial or funeral service that is held by for the situation. And that would look like flowers of some sort. And then we are also looking at making a recommendation that the Board of Education would provide some type of resolution for the family as well. And that would be in each instance, and then the family would make the ultimate decision if they would want to share that at the service.
Mm-hmm. So that Ms. Mallory, the board does that for every loss in the district. Okay, the board does a resolution to the families, whether it be staff or student. Okay, and that is on behalf of the entire district. Okay. So we've got that one handled. Okay. My question is, you said that the person would reach out who has the relationship. So are you talking about the social workers that are working with the students and the parents?
So the initial contact should be someone who has a specific relationship with the family, whether that's the teacher, the principal. The social worker may not know the family personally. But the social worker does have some responsibilities afterwards in following up and making connections with the family, making sure any supports that are needed are there, and just kind of keeping in contact, making sure if the student is still going to the school, making sure that we're keeping constant contact and update with that family.
I'm going to open it up to the board. Do you have any questions or comments for Ms. Mallory? Mr. Scarce?
Yes. What determines the dollar amount, or what is that dollar amount?
I can tell you, I know what we had sort of talked about, and this has not been officially, approved yet, because it's conversation about trying to make sure that we do something that we feel is that honors the situation and the people. So we had initially thought, I believe, if it was like one student in our district, it would be, maybe $50. If they have 2 to 4 students, $100. In the case that we have families like the most recent one where the nurse passed away with 7 children, and 4 or 5 of those in our district right now, we would offer a higher amount, maybe $150. Mrs. Mallory, I think, was going to share, but I don't think she's gotten to talking about this very unique situation. Ms. Mallory, would you like to do that, or do you want me to?
Oh, okay. Yes. So for our most recent situation that happened, and of course, in respect to any of our viewers that are listening or that know that family, we did receive some correspondence from the family. There was a link that was sent out, and I think it was sent out through the community. And everyone had an opportunity to donate and submit. And the father has expressed that there has been overwhelming support from the district, from the community. And at this time, there are no immediate needs for that family. They are fine. But they are asking that if anyone would like to still make any type of donation, that it is sent to Kettering Medical, and I have it written right here, so I'll say it the correct way. Kettering Network Memorial Fund, and that can be done at any Kettering Network credit union in honor of the mother. And the mother's name was Tawana Everett. It's the Tawana Everett Memorial Fund. They're asking that any other future donations be sent there.
What we realized as we've been talking through this is it appears to me, and you correct me because as you know, I am new in the community, that the number of cases where we are losing people seem to be increasing. And I know a lot of that is due to COVID. There are just some things that are going on. And so that's why we felt like we wanted to make sure that everyone felt the same amount of love and respect from us as a district, that it's not based on anything else. It's not a popularity contest or anything like that. We care about all of our students, and if something happens to a staff member, a student, or parent, we would like to acknowledge it in the same respectful way. So that's what we were thinking. We are open to some, suggestions. If anyone feels strongly about something they would like us to do, something we think we should not do, we will be hearing that before we determine,
Mr. Scares has his hand up, I think.
Okay.
Mr. Scares?
I think it is extremely compassionate, and I would definitely be, definitely in favor of that. Not to be or seem incompassionate in the same sense. Where does that money come from? Just making sure we cover those bases.
Mm-hmm. President Moore, if I could speak?
Yes, please.
I was going to add to that these monetary contributions would not be from public funds from real estate public monies. They would be from like principal funds that were gotten from like the Coca-Cola monies or outside fundraising. We would not use public dollars to fund any of that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Scares. Ms. Mallory, I know that we had that particular unfortunate situation, but I understand we've had some other parents that have passed in the district as well. Are we also reaching out and doing the condolences for those families as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And so in all of those other instances as well, just so, the board and community knows that they have never gone unaddressed. All of the schools have always, just by nature, taken on the responsibility of making sure that any of their students or families that are impacted by any type of loss is taken care of.
Okay.
To make sure that at a district level, there's a consistent outreach of support.
Yeah, and that's important because I know one of the students attended Dayton Public, and they had something in the paper about their outreach and what they were doing. And we want to make sure, yes, we're doing it, but we don't do all these things in silos. We let our district-wide, community know that the district is very involved. And again, and I say that because I know I've got a couple calls and they were saying, gosh, what are we doing? What are we doing? Well, we're doing a lot. They just didn't know about it. And it looks as if other people, other districts are doing something and Trotwood's just mum's the word. So we want to make sure that the information is flowing throughout the district, that we have a plan and how we handle these type of situations as a district family.
Hopefully our new communications rep help us with that.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Mallory. We appreciate the information and the update.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mallory.
Next up, we have the treasurer's comments.
I just wanted to say happy holidays to everyone. I hope everyone is safe and takes this next 2 weeks to rest up for an exciting 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Allen.
You're welcome.
Superintendent's comments, Dr. Cosby?
Yes, I would like to reiterate that. I'm looking forward to myself getting a little bit of downtime, and your mind is always thinking, but at least we'll be able to focus on, the holidays. And I do want to share with you guys, I actually have on my Christmas shirt right now, but I put on my jacket so I would be very also, I do want to share that we are still continuing to do great things in our community. Mr. Howard is going to talk to you about how we're going to support families during the holidays.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We originally, due to the contracts of staff members, were not going to be able to continue our nutritional service pickups during the holidays due to folks just not being scheduled to work. We have been serving roughly between 800 and 1,100 students, between 800 and 1,100 students during the time we have been on the virtual platform. Several of our employees from transportation and food service did not want to discontinue the food service program during the holidays because they felt that it was an important contribution that the district participated in during just supporting the community in that sense. So we are going to be continuing the food service program on the 23rd and the 30th. We are going to be providing holiday-based family meals, and we were fortunate enough to get a donation from the Right Way Foundation of 240 hams that we are going to be putting together in our family baskets, and we're going to distribute them amongst 3 buildings, 80 hams per building. And just continuing to provide that service during the holiday. And I just wanted to note that the Right Way Foundation, Chris Wright, Bam Bradley, Nicholas Grigsby, those guys stepped up and made this contribution. So we'll be providing mashed potatoes, macaroni and cheese, canned vegetables, and every family. Every family will be receiving a holiday ham. It's about a 4-pound ham, serves 4 to 5 people. And then we're also trying to enlist some folks to help, just bring some cheer to the kids as they come up. We'll be passing out candy canes and pencils, just trying to, bring some cheer in a unusual holiday season. So I did just want to share that with the board. Dr. Cosby asked me to share. So the 23rd from 11 to 2 and the 30th from 11 to 2 at Madison Park, Westbrook, and the ELC. We will be continuing with the food pickup.
Wow, that's wonderful.
All right.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cosby. Next up, any board committee reports? If none, we'll go to the board comments. Mr. Andrews, please.
Well, I'll just say that I really want to express my support and my admiration for our staff and the work that they're doing during this pandemic. As has been mentioned a number of times, we're all learning by doing in this. This is, this is an epic event, and nobody knew what to do. But I think that we have been very resourceful, and I think that we have been very diligent in trying to, and very creative in trying to make sure that we maintain a really good academic environment for our students, and I'm really appreciative of all those efforts by students, and not students, but faculty and staff. And also I want to thank everybody, faculty and staff, for supporting our students and their families through a lot of the things that are going on and continue to go on. A lot of setbacks here and there, but it's a Trotwood thing. We pull together, and we always find a way to rally around, support, and overcome all these obstacles, and we continue to do it. And I'm just very proud of everyone and everything they've been able to offer.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Mr. Scares?
No comments. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you. Ms. Jeter Freeman?
I echo what Mr. Andrews said, but I want to especially thank our transportation and food service for giving up days on their holiday to make sure that others are taken care of. And also a huge thanks for Right Way Foundation for providing that the meals that BAM and our other right. It's been a challenging year, but I think all of us, our staff and our teachers, our students, we've hung in there, so we deserve this break. So make sure you enjoy and take time for self.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ms. Jeter Freeman. Vice President Bozeman?
That was what I was going to say, Vanessa Jeter Freeman. Thank you for everything that you've done and are doing, and you really do deserve this break, so please enjoy it. Thank you.
Okay. Everybody's already said everything, so I echo my board. There is one thing, there is a bit of sad news, and I would like for us as a district family to take a moment of silence for the loss of one of our students we just found out about, and that is Skylar Ross. If we could please, just a moment of silence for his family. Let's lift them up in prayer. Thank you. Thank you all. I'd just like to say, everybody, please have a safe and healthy holiday. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your families. And know that we're here to support each and every one of you in any way that we can. So thank you all. And thank you for being here tonight with us. With that said, I am going to ask for a motion from my board to adjourn into executive session to consider the employment of a public employee per BOE policy 0166 and ORC 121.22 G1.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman?
Yes.
And Ms. Moore?
Yes, motion passes. We will now move into executive session to consider the employment of a public employee. Action will be taken or will be considered in the next agenda. All right. No action will be taken this evening. Discussion only. And that would be Superintendent, Ms. Allen, and the board. So, and we will come back and adjourn appropriately. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us. Have a great one.
You're live.
Okay. We are now back into our regular session. I now need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
So,
Okay.
second.
We have we have a motion in 2 seconds. Okay, any questions? Okay, being done, Ms. Allen, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Scares,
Yeah.
Raise your-
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes, meeting adjourned. Happy holidays. Everybody have a safe holiday season. Enjoy your family.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.